In the small community of Elkview, West Virginia, the past few years have been filled with challenges. However, in the winter of 2020, the residents of this town faced a tragedy of an unusual scale. Just weeks before Christmas, a wave of horror swept through one of the quiet neighborhoods. 4 murders occurred. A family fell victim to a brutal attack in their sleep, without signs of struggle or disorder. The murder weapon was found abandoned in the house, and one family member had mysteriously disappeared. This horrifying event shocked the small community when a family member made a gruesome discovery one Sunday morning. The story unfolded slowly, with the police carefully concealing investigation details. Even when all the information came to light, many questions remained unanswered. Let us delve into this case. Pinch, West Virginia, located along the Elk River near Pinch Creek in Kanawha County, was where the family lived: Daniel Long, his wife Risa Saunders, and Risa's 2 sons from a previous marriage, 16-year-old Gavin and 12-year-old Gage. The couple also had a 3-year-old son, Jameson. On December 13, 2020, Risa's father, Timothy Saunders, began to worry after not hearing from his daughter. He tried calling her, but received no response. By morning, he decided to check on the family himself. Timothy arrived at Cemetery Hill Drive around 10:30 a.m. Everything seemed as usual, peaceful. Entering the house through an unlocked door, he noticed the unsettling silence inside. Timothy decided to inspect the rooms. In the darkness of the house, he made his way to the master bedroom. Turning on the light, he found the bodies of his daughter, 39-year-old Risa, and her husband Daniel, both lifeless. Gage was also lying on the floor near the bed. Timothy rushed out of the house to alert the neighbors and call 911, stating only that his family was dead, seemingly the victims of violence. Attempts to wake them had been futile, and he had no other details. Upon arrival, the sheriff's deputies discovered yet another victim, little Jameson, found dead in his bedroom, killed in the same manner as the rest of the family. However, not all family members were accounted for. 16-year-old Gavin was missing, and attempts to contact him were unsuccessful. Around 10:40 a.m., a call came in from a family member who had come to check on the house. Officers responding to the scene confirmed that 4 individuals had been found dead inside the home. At the time, it was unclear exactly when the murders had taken place. Attempts to reach the family had been ongoing since the previous day. Now, police were gathering evidence and conducting an investigation, noting that all information had to be verified before being publicly disclosed. A handgun and a large knife were found at the scene. The autopsy revealed that each family member had been shot in the head at close range, likely from about 1 foot away. It was determined that the killings had occurred several days before they were discovered, likely on December 9th. Following the discovery, information about the case was slow to emerge, and the victims' identities were confirmed only days later. Police stated they believed the area was safe, emphasizing that this was an isolated incident and that the family had been targeted for personal reasons. Sheriff's deputies, who usually receive few calls in this quiet area, were not accustomed to such events. A local resident remarked that he had noticed unusual activity on the road earlier that morning, which concerned him, as such incidents were rare in the neighborhood. The immediate priority was to locate 16-year-old Gavin to ensure his safety. Fortunately, he was found quickly. On the same day the family was discovered dead, Gavin was located at a house on River Road in Clendenin, about a 30-minute drive from Cemetery Hill Drive. This house belonged to the grandmother of his girlfriend, Rebecca Walker, who was traveling at the time. When officers entered the house, they found Gavin hiding behind a dresser on the 3rd floor. Nearby were several items stained with what appeared to be blood. Additional testing confirmed that the blood belonged to his 2 younger brothers. Gavin was taken into custody for questioning. At this early stage, the story began to unfold. Facebook messages between Gavin and Rebecca revealed that they had been communicating on December 9th, the day the murders were believed to have taken place. Gavin had messaged her while partially on his way from his home in Elkview to the house on Riverhaven Road in Clendenin. Their conversations shed light on who had committed the horrific acts at Cemetery Hill. In these messages, Gavin confessed to Rebecca that he had killed his younger brother. During his interrogation with detectives, Gavin continued to disclose details, eventually making a full confession. Later, Gavin claimed that he hadn't realized his actions would lead to his arrest. The 17-year-old Rebecca Walker was also arrested in connection with these murders. Her correspondence with Gavin indicated that she had been an accomplice after the crime was committed. Kanawha County Police made another arrest in the case that occurred in Elkview on Sunday. This case is unusual since minors were involved in the crime. Under the law, actions of juveniles are governed by specific regulations that complicate the public disclosure of details during the investigation. Care must be taken to avoid issues that could hinder further legal proceedings, so the details cannot be shared as they would be for adults. After hiding in the woods for several hours, Gavin made his way to Rebecca's house, where he stayed for 4 days, trying to evade capture. Not only did Rebecca maintain contact with Gavin immediately after the tragedy, but she also failed to inform the authorities about the events that had taken place on Cemetery Hill. Worse yet, call logs revealed that the couple conducted video calls not only after the murders but also during the act itself. A grand jury indicted Gavin on 4 counts of first-degree murder. Given the severity of the crime, both Gavin's and Rebecca's cases were transferred to adult court. Eventually, information was made public, and local media in West Virginia revealed, for the first time, the face of the young man who had confessed to killing his family members. While Gavin remained in custody awaiting trial, Rebecca began testifying. In the summer of 2016, West Virginia and neighboring areas experienced one of the most severe floods in the state's history. Within a short period, between 8 and 10 inches of rain fell, with the most concentrated damage occurring in 5 counties, including Kanawha. In Clendenin, the Elk River overflowed, rising 5 feet in the town center. Many homes in Elkview were flooded. This flood caused extensive destruction and became one of the deadliest in the states. History. When the waters receded, 23 people were dead, and thousands of homes were either destroyed or severely damaged. 12 counties were declared disaster zones. Rebecca Walker's family was among those who lost nearly all of their possessions during the flood. Over the following years, they lived in poverty, and Rebecca soon faced another tragedy, the death of her mother, with whom she had been very close. A physician who evaluated Rebecca noted her reclusive behavior at school and her struggles to establish social connections. The tragedy she had endured left her vulnerable to the influence of her boyfriend. This context may shed light on a possible motive behind Gavin's horrific actions. Rebecca's attorney, Robbie Long, described the couple's relationship as a perfect storm in which 2 teenagers became obsessed with the illusion of a shared future. Unfortunately, Gavin succumbed to this fantasy and acted upon it, leading to the current situation. Rebecca did assist in hiding him from the authorities, and now she must face the consequences. The two shared deep trust and mutual support, with Gavin confiding in Rebecca about being mistreated at home and his desire to escape and be with her. Rebecca desperately wanted to help him, but later admitted to doctors that she didn't know how. She wrote a letter to the court, but was too emotional to read it aloud. The letter was submitted to the judge for review. Prosecutors presented evidence that Rebecca had known about Gavin's intent to kill his family as early as a month before the murders. For Reese's father, Timothy, this was reason enough to call for life imprisonment. Nobody called, and now I've lost my family because of that. They lost their lives for no reason. They didn't deserve this. Rebecca pleaded guilty as an adult to 4 counts of accessory after the fact. In exchange for her plea, the 4 first-degree murder charges were dismissed. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison for her role in the crime. Kanawha County Deputy Chief Prosecutor Don Morris agreed that Rebecca had received the plea deal because the state believed she had been, to some extent, a victim of manipulation by her boyfriend. However, he did not agree with the defense's claim that their relationship was an illusion. This wasn't an illusion, he emphasized. If you analyze their behavior, it was more about selfishness than delusion. They wanted to be together, but at the cost of 4 lives. The trial of Gavin began in December 2022, and the prosecutor argued that his actions were driven by selfish motives. This is a case about a frustrated teenager who killed his family to be with his girlfriend. It may sound horrifying, but that's the core of this case, the prosecutor stated. Gavin's attorney, John Sullivan, acknowledged that his client had indeed killed his family, but insisted that the crime did not meet the criteria for first-degree murder. He urged the jury to focus on the intent behind the crime, a key element for such a charge. The defense argued that Gavin, who was homeschooled, had endured ongoing abuse and was forced to care for his 3-year-old brother. The younger brother even began calling Gavin Dad, adding more pressure to the situation. Sullivan explained that conditions at home had become so extreme that the back door was locked from the inside with a padlock. A normal door has a mechanism that allows it to be opened from the inside. But in their case, the entrance door was secured with a padlock from within, the attorney noted. This showed how isolated Gavin felt in his own home. It is the story of a teenager who faced abuse from his stepfather, could not leave the house, and suffered from food insecurity. The attorney told the jury that food was locked away in both the refrigerator and pantry, presenting crime scene photos showing locks on the fridge and cabinets. He also provided evidence that Gavin had tried multiple times to run away from home to escape these conditions. In text messages to Rebecca, Gavin expressed his frustration that sheriff's deputies kept finding him and bringing him back home. Witnesses from the sheriff's office confirmed that Gavin had run away on several occasions, and at one point, the case was reported to Child Protective Services. When I spoke with Gavin at Buster's house, he admitted that homeschooling made him feel isolated, and he wanted to transfer to a regular school. But he had responsibilities. He had to care for Jameson, the 2-year-old boy, and he fed, clothed, and looked after him on his own, one witness explained. Gavin also mentioned the locks on the doors and fridge, confirming that his access to food was controlled. During his testimony, Timothy Saunders explained that sometimes the food was locked because the children might eat too much, and the family needed to ration their supplies for the month. He shared a painful memory of discovering his daughter and her family dead. The lights were off, and the curtains were drawn, so I saw them lying in bed. I called out to them. Did anyone respond? No one answered. When I stepped into the room, I stumbled over something. Then I found the switch and turned on the light. What did you see? It was Gage. Rebecca Walker became a key witness for the prosecution. When asked about her feelings during the trial, she responded, "Yes, it's hard." The jury learned that Gavin's mother and stepfather disapproved of his relationship with Rebecca. They forbade him from seeing her, but the couple continued to communicate secretly through text messages and video calls. Things were tough for him at home, and he didn't like being told what to do, especially when it came to us talking. We both wanted to be together, and that became the main reason for what happened, Rebecca explained. Rebecca recalled that in December 2020, her grandmother, with whom she lived, planned to leave, giving her an opportunity to spend time with Gavin. She also described Gavin's anger over his failed attempts to escape from home. When prosecutors asked if he had ever expressed a desire to act on this anger, Rebecca admitted that he had talked about killing his family. She added that she agreed because it seemed like the only way they could be free to be together. On the evening of December 9th, Gavin and Rebecca communicated via video call. Gavin was at home, armed with a gun and a knife. I want to make it clear that I wasn't at his house during these events. We were on a video call when it all happened, but I urged him to get it over with, to do it quickly, she confessed. When prosecutors asked why she wanted him to act, Rebecca responded, "I felt that if he did it, we'd finally have a chance to be together." At some point during their conversation, Rebecca's screen went black. "Did you see the weapon on the screen?" the prosecutors asked. "Yes." "Who was holding it?" "Gavin." "Did he also have a knife?" "Yes." When asked what Gavin intended to do with the weapon, Rebecca replied, "He planned to kill his mother and stepfather. But I can't remember exactly which weapon was used on whom. I just know that both the gun and the knife were involved in the killings." Although she didn't witness the murders directly, since her screen had gone black, she knew what had happened. When he reappeared on the call, he looked terrified and shaken. I tried to calm him down, telling him that everything would be fine. The key issue in Gavin Smith's trial was whether he acted with intent and whether he was guilty of first-degree murder. This became the central focus of both sides' closing arguments. The prosecutors argued that Gavin had killed all 4 members of his family, and the only question was whether his actions were premeditated. The defense emphasized the importance of determining whether Gavin had true criminal intent or acted under the pressure of circumstances. The trial lasted only 4 days, 3 days for witness testimonies and 1 day for jury deliberations. Gavin Smith did not testify in his own defense. His legal team relied on the sheriff's department's testimony about his attempts to escape, as well as photos of the locks inside the house as evidence of his isolation and despair. The jury found Gavin Blaine Smith guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. Jury foreman Stephen Hayward later told local media that they had debated whether to convict him of first-degree murder for the death of 12-year-old Gage, as the boy was found in the parents' bedroom, where he was not supposed to be. This raised doubts about whether Gavin had intended to kill him, which led them to return a second-degree murder verdict on that charge. However, the killing of Jamison, found in his own room, was deemed intentional and premeditated. This case was incredibly significant, Hayward noted, because it wasn't just about 4 lost lives. It was about a 16-year-old boy who took the lives of his family. Trying to understand what could have driven him to do that was incredibly difficult. Gavin will be eligible for parole in 15 years, as West Virginia law prohibits sentencing a minor to life without parole, even if tried as an adult. Although he received multiple life sentences, it is unlikely he will be released after 15 years. The exact date of sentencing is currently unknown. The story of Gavin Smith and Rebecca Walker serves as a reminder of how dangerous inner despair and toxic relationships can be, especially among young people. It shows how a lack of support, control, and isolation can push someone toward horrific decisions. Gavin sought a way out of what he felt was a trap, but instead of finding help, he chose a path of violence that destroyed not only his life, but also the lives of those who loved him. This story teaches that silence or complicity makes us part of the problem, while difficult conversations and timely support can save lives. It's not just a murder tragedy. It's a story of missed opportunities for salvation, of mistakes that cannot be undone. If this story intrigued you and you want to hear more investigations like it, subscribe to my channel. I have plenty of captivating detective stories waiting for you. What are your thoughts on this case? How could this tragedy have been prevented? Share your opinions in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think.